Awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then I always put these on my YouTube and share it, so um I record it. But then if we're talking at the end, just the two of us, obviously I will end the recording so that I'm not like just recording our private conversation. Um, yeah, that would definitely be awkward. So this is journaling for depression. Yeah, and then obviously my Facebook, that is fighting ableism. And if you want to follow my events on Eventbrite, I'm called Zebra Support. So here I have a quote that says, I write entirely to find out what I am thinking, what I am looking at, what I see, and what it means, what I want, and what I fear, which is pretty spot on for for like me personally for why I write. So I always like to make my workshops as accessible as possible. I'll do visual descriptions for anybody who's blind. I always have captions for multiple reasons, from people being deaf to having sensory processing disorder. Um, and then I always have a sensory safe space. So kind of low lighting, and I don't, yell. And while it's just the two of us, when I do have other people here, I also ask them not to do that, like no fluorescent lighting and stuff like that. And then I also try to minimize background noise for anybody with like ADHD, and then large text for anybody with visual impairment. And then if I talk about anything triggering, I'll mention that so that anybody with PTSD can prepare themselves, or, leave, mute, whatever they need to do. And then I also never have any flashing lights for participants with epilepsy. So my audience is people with depression, people in therapy or mental health programs, people who have depression that's coming back, and people who like to journal. And then also afterwards, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I do have your email. So I have made all of these worksheets myself. It's a resource planning worksheet, a self-care worksheet, challenging negative thoughts worksheet, a shame to pride worksheet, and then asking for help worksheet. So risk factors for depression, it can be really difficult to understand why you have depression. Um, so it can be your genetics and family history, history of trauma, disability and chronic pain, an unsupportive environment, loss of a loved one or grief, having a dual diagnosis or addiction, being homeless or housing insecure, or having food insecurity, living in an unsafe area, or just generally being unsatisfied with your life. But everybody's different, and we all have different reasons for being depressed. People can also have the best life in the world and still be depressed, because that is the fundamental nature of depression. Um, so the objectives of this workshop: learn how to journal to cope with depression, learn coping skills for depression, learn how to do resource planning, learn how to challenge negative thoughts, learn how to ask for help, recognize the warning signs of depression, use your journal to plan for self care, learn the power of affirmations and mantras, use your journal to boost your self esteem, and cope with depression about the pandemic. Writing in a journal reminds you of your goals and of your learning in life. It offers a place where you can hold a deliberate, thoughtful conversation with yourself. And I'd also like to add, and not have to worry about anybody else's judgment, their ableism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, anything like that. It's just you and yourself, and it's always going to be a safe space. So here is an example journal routine. Um, Sometimes I will journal or dictate for hours. So you can spend 5 to 10 minutes challenging negative thoughts, 5 to 10 minutes reflecting on your warning signs of depression, or how you can tell that your depression is getting worse. And then 20 to 30 minutes journaling out like coping skills for different symptoms of depression. And then 20 to 30 minutes doing self-esteem exercises, and 5 minutes journaling about your support resources. So, how journaling can help with depression: you can reflect on your issues, again, in a safe space, gain insight on your problems, visually see what you need. Sometimes that's like a mind map or a diagram, even like a chart. Um, Plan self care, think about your warning signs, write down reminders of your worth, remember good times, and write down affirmations. So here are some methods for challenging negative thoughts. If you have any kind of mental illness, from OCD to anxiety, PTSD, depression, we all have intrusive or automatic negative thoughts that are very hard to cope with. So the first method for challenging these thoughts is the CBT method, which is recognizing cognitive distortions. So write down your honest automatic thoughts and then look up a list of cognitive distortions, which is like the most common ways that people with mental illness tend to see themselves or see a situation or see the world, and then identify your distortions. And there are even like apps that do this that make it like a lot easier. And then you challenge the thought by kind of going against the specific distortion, and you rewrite the thought to be more neutral and healthy. And then another method of challenging negative thoughts is to treat yourself like a friend. So we're always overly critical of ourselves. So you write down your negative thoughts that are very critical and pretend like a friend is saying that, and counter them with what you would say if a friend was telling you that they felt that way or was thinking those thoughts. Um, I do that because I struggle to have self compassion with myself and tend to be more caring with others. So treating myself like a friend does help, even though it can be a little awkward at first. And then, so resource planning is basically um, looking at different types of resources, like internal, which is your experiences, your knowledge, your natural abilities, whether that's mental, emotional intelligence, or physical abilities, social resources, professional resources, and then physical things that you have that can help you. So here are some examples of a resource plan. So social, friends, I might say that would be you and another friend. Support group, you know, I would write down my favorite support group. Family, I'm really close with my dad, so I would write down my dad. Professional, my life coach is a major player, so I would definitely write down that. And then my therapist is also very helpful and is also available like after hours, so I would also include him. And also, my health coach helps me deal with a lot of health things. And this can be resource planning for, and like I have resource planning for like patient advocacy, and also then resource planning for mental illness, and having like a case manager for your mental health stuff is also very helpful. And then for self help, therapistaid.com is very helpful. They have a lot of free worksheets and they're all really good. A lot of therapists and mental health programs that I've gone to actually use Therapist Aid. And so, and like I said, it's very clear, and they have a massive variety, and it's super easy to understand and always really helpful. And then there's events like this one on Facebook or Eventbrite. There's a lot of like free, very useful events, and then journals and books, self care or workbooks that you have. And resource planning can also include basically whatever else you want. It can include specific coping skills, specific places that you like to go, whatever you can think of that you like to use the most, include that in your resource plan. So next is the warning signs and then corresponding coping skills of depression. Obviously, these aren't all. These are just kind of the top ones. So a major one is apathy, which, is basically the inability to feel joy and kind of not caring about anything. And the coping skill for that is to plan positive experiences and to try to be mindful during them. And the next one is to withdraw socially. A lot of people aren't motivated or they feel very bad about themselves, so they tend to withdraw from their social life. So plan time with your friends and family. And you can also challenge those negative thoughts that are telling you, like, oh, nobody cares about me, or all my relationships will fall apart. That can also be very helpful. And then another very common one is thoughts of self harm or trigger warning, suicide. For this one, make a safety plan, which is, basically if you're having this symptom, you know who to call, who can help you, who can come over and keep you safe. You know the closest urgent care, the closest ER, the closest doctor, the closest 24-hour place. And so basically just being prepared for a mental health thing like crisis, as well as kind of a medical issue because of a mental health crisis. And then sleeping too much or too little, practicing sleep hygiene, and also having a regular routine and exercising can help a lot. And then another major warning sign is having no appetite and not eating enough, or binge eating to try to make yourself feel better, seeing a nutrition or dietitian, and exercising to try to regulate your appetite is very helpful. Another one is procrastination because you feel unmotivated or you have such low self-esteem that you just feel hopeless, or like loss of concentration is also very common. So break down goals into smaller steps, stay very, very organized, and track your progress. And then also try not to overwhelm yourself. Like don't don't break down your goals into smaller steps, but have like 20 goals you're working on, have like one priority and then stick to it, and then do the next priority. And then once you're done with that, you can do the next one. And then the last warning sign is low self esteem, which can include body image issues, self hate, a lot of different types of low self esteem, even like social anxiety, and self compassion can really, really go a long way. Um, so here there's a quote against a black background that says, a personal journal is an ideal environment in which to become. It is a perfect place for you to think, feel, discover, expand, remember, and dream. And then I wrote, a journal is a safe space to be alone with your thoughts and process your feelings. Here is another quote that says, the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. You're always with yourself through all your hardships, and you always hear yourself talk, but we never think about our relationship with ourselves as one we need to fix or work on or prioritize. So this kind of leads into my next section, which is about self-esteem and turning shame into pride. So a lot of people with mental illness feel ashamed of their mental illness, and a big part of that is ableism and stigma. And so here is something that I developed myself, a way to take something that you're ashamed of and reflect and eventually feel proud of the fact that you do something to challenge it. So take something that you're ashamed of and reflect on it. Consider how much you struggle with this specific issue. Instead of being ashamed of the fact that you struggle, feel proud that you fight to change it. Be proud that you sustain any effort to change and improve your life. Instead of focusing on the outcome, focus on how much effort and willpower you have had to push through the mental pain of depression. Instead of being ashamed of the fact that you have an issue, be proud of the fact that you're doing anything to change it. So here is an example. I'm ashamed of having depression for so long. It means that I'm weak. Depression is hard to deal with, and living with it is a sign of resilience, not weakness. Living with depression is a sign of my strength, not weakness, and I have many reasons to be proud of all the work I've put in to taking care of myself. My depression is difficult to manage, but that doesn't mean that I'm weak. Um, yeah, so, and then here is a wonderful diagram about what keeps low self-esteem going. At the core, there's negative beliefs about yourself, which are fueled by negative thoughts. And then there, that's the negative beliefs are fueled by speaking to yourself in a critical way, setting inflexible rules about how you should be, avoidance and safety strategies, making anxious predictions, and looking out for danger. And so the unintended outcome of speaking to yourself in a critical way is that you often intended to be self-motivating, but criticizing yourself is actually paralyzing and reinforces your beliefs. And then setting inflexible rules, the unintended outcome is that we set rules to try to protect ourselves, but they are often too inflexible and hurt us in the end. For the avoidance and safety strategy, the unintended outcome is that you never get to find out whether your anxious predictions are accurate or not. And then making anxious predictions, the unintended outcome is being on the lookout for danger makes you more likely to notice signs even where there are none. And so here are some ways to improve self-esteem. Affirmations, challenging negative thoughts, turn shame into pride with the process that I just showed you. Get to the root of your self-esteem issues. For example, it could be trauma, it could be internal ableism because of your disability. Challenge core beliefs that don't serve you with an evidence-based approach. Examine how negative events in your life have impacted your self-esteem. Look for patterns in your negative thoughts. And then here are, oh, and then also don't tie your productivity to your self-worth. And here are some questions that you can ask yourself. Do marginalized identities impact your self-esteem? Does internalized transphobia, homophobia, or ableism impact your self-esteem? So here is a photo of many people saying affirmations to themselves like, I love myself, I'm unique, I'm special, and I'm feeling good. It says affirmations and changing your self-talk can boost your self-esteem. Improving self-esteem involves self-awareness, challenging negative thoughts and beliefs, and setting realistic expectations. You have to also have a healthy dose of acceptance and self-compassion to improve your self-esteem. Work on your body image. Don't compare yourself to others. Instead, compare yourself to a past version of you. So here are more strategies to work on your self-esteem. Reject perfectionism. Take an inventory of strengths and weaknesses. Set realistic expectations. Adapt your self-image appropriately. Explore yourself and don't compare yourself to others. And then distinguish between your inner and outer beauty. Focus on the good rather than the bad. Understand more about what makes good friendships and create a habit of positive realism. And then here's a photo of somebody looking at themselves in the mirror and the person in the mirror hugging them. And it says, I heart myself. Loving yourselves comes from understanding, compassion, forgiveness, and accepting. Um, so I'm just gonna stop a little bit. Do you have any questions so far or like comments?
No.
Okay, cool. Is my pace okay? And is the level of background noise suitable for you?
Your pace is fine. And
Okay,
yeah, I don't hear any
okay,
background noise.
perfect.
So
Perfect, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, so the power of affirmations. Personally, I and I've had depression and anxiety my entire life. I use affirmations all like every single day because it is one way for me to kind of reassure myself, and it lets me have like a single phrase where I can kind of try to trigger a relaxation response. So affirmations can help in many ways. They counteract negative self-talk, remind you of your worth, and send a signal that you're capable of managing your depressive thoughts. How to use affirmations effectively. Affirm with faith, affirm with positive feelings. Do not affirm absent-mindedly. Affirmations are positive about the person making the affirmation, short, in the present tense, and specific. Yeah, like the more specific they can be, the better. Like I make specific ones for very, very, very specific instances, like for having a rare invisible illness when you're young, like literally the most specific thing you can think of, because the more personalized it is, the more it'll feel like you and the more it'll reassure you. And here there's a photo of a girl with flowers coming out of the top of her head, and the caption is, "I have the power to change my world." So asking for help is also incredibly important, especially when you have something like depression. So asking for help is a very important skill that allows you to delegate responsibilities when you're overwhelmed. It is also essential to decrease shame when asking for help. So plan who you will ask, when, and how. Have a list of people you know wouldn't mind helping you. Have self-compassion when you need a helping hand. Remember that nobody can do everything by themselves all the time. Then plan self-care for after you ask for help. Be strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to know when you need help, and brave enough to ask for it. So self-care is also very important. Here's a quote that says, "Put yourself at the top of your to-do list every single day, and the rest will fall into place." So basically saying that, instead of focusing on things to do, focus on yourself and how you want to be. So there are several types of self-care, such as social. Some examples are being involved with the people that you love, talking through text and call with the people who are understanding and compassionate, and going to support groups. Physical, like resting or napping when tired, eating when you're hungry, and eating in a healthy manner. Exercising when you live a sedentary lifestyle and treating physical illness. Emotional, which is doing activities or hobbies that boost your mood. Do a calming or relaxing activity. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Connect with your faith or find a deeper meaning, or work through your emotions. So prioritizing self-care. Here are just a few ways that you can prioritize your self-care. Put it in your calendar. If you have trouble making time for self-care, put it in your calendar. Set reminders, put it in your alarm, or clear your schedule for a few hours so that you have a surefire set amount of time to practice self-care. Find or make a self-care worksheet. Fill out my self-care worksheet on the types of self-care, what you need to do, in the what you need to do, as well as what could get in the way and how to troubleshoot for those instances. Have a self-care box. Put all of your favorite self-care items in a box, decorate it, and save it for a bad day. And then have a self-care day. Have a specific day of the week in which you make self-care your top priority. Give yourself the same care and attention you give to others and watch yourself bloom. Journal- Journaling increases your self-confidence. It helps you look at how far you've come and how you overcame previous seemingly impossible obstacles. Writing about your successes and what's going right helps to ease depression and to improve confidence, as well as feel more secure in your life. It helps you see all that you've accomplished in your life. So, a positive events diary is so, so important. It's kind of like uh, gratitude, but also reflecting on things that you've overcome and just looking back on the best times in your life. So it has many benefits like decreasing anxiety and depression, and improving self-esteem and competence. So here are some things that you can journal about. What you've accomplished, happy memory, kind things that you've done for people or people have done for you, and how that made you feel or how you've made other people feel with your kind actions. Happy thoughts that you have, times that you've been proud of yourself, difficulties that you've overcome, how you've managed an illness or chronic problem, times that you have turned around a bad day, or something like favorites, your favorite pet, your favorite flower, favorite music, favorite package you've gotten from somebody. And then this is about pandemic depression. Obviously, the pandemic has been hard on all of us, but especially if you already have a mental illness, it can really exacerbate that. So here are some basics. Recognize grief and trauma. If you've lost somebody, let yourself take time to heal, and don't expect yourself to get over it like it was normal sadness. Isolation. For isolation over lockdown, get involved over a Zoom call or text. Get into support groups as well. For sadness over another friend's grief, if you're a very empathetic person, give yourself some compassion as well and self-soothe. Depression over financial situations. Find out what you personally can do and let go of the rest. Accept what you can't change, or maybe be proactive and talk to your boss. Loss of hobbies, make your home your safe space and find new hobbies that you can do at home. And then if you are high risk and stuck at home and you just feel scared all the time, make sure to do what you can to prevent that, and make sure that you have like a counselor or a therapist or just somebody who knows what you're going through and can support you through that. So, and then here are my tips for pandemic depression. Get a grief counselor if you've been struggling with a personal loss. Recognize trauma symptoms and give yourself time and patience. Get involved with others over Zoom or even chat and find just a very supportive environment. Try new hobbies at home, make home more enjoyable. Challenge core beliefs and negative thoughts. Be mindful of fear, anger, anxiety, and sadness, and take care of yourself. Take care of your body. Sleep, eat, and exercise as much as you can in a healthy way. And don't be afraid to ask for help. So now, since we're both disabled, um, I am going to talk about how to make things accessible. So if you have issues holding a pen, I would highly recommend, there's like this ergonomic pen where it's like in a Y shape. And that really helps because it takes all the pressure off of your joints in your fingers. So that helps me a lot. For both of us, we have EDS. Ring splints also help a lot for writing. Um, and then if you just physically can't write that much, I suggest using like a dictation app so that you can just speak and then it'll do speech to text, and you will be able to read what you've written and not just play it back. Or if you're a more audio based person, you don't have to do that and you can just record it and then listen back to your notes. And then if you're going to school, usually you can get like a program that will dictate for you or record for you. And there's also a lot of good tools. For example, I have this fancy pen that basically it records everything that goes on, and also it's like a lot lighter than a normal pencil and fatter, so it's easier to hold. And whatever I write, it makes an electronic copy of that note, so I like have that forever. So that just makes things like quite a bit easier for me as well. um yeah, and then also obviously just like making sure that you're resting and taking breaks and not overdoing it. And then, you can also just try to, for example, it's a lot easier for me to type on a computer or type on my phone than it is to write with a pen or pencil. So you can also get like a journal app and make your own journals, and then like journal prompts, and then fill those in with your phone or with your computer, and you don't have to pick up a pen at all. What do you think?
Yeah, my favorite pens are actually those like giant ones that are